It's fun to be able to do this video here on Warchant TV alongside senior recruiting analyst Michael Langston. My name is Tom Lang. Florida State football 1-0 after a statement victory over Alabama. Have you heard about it? You probably have by now. Florida State destroyed Alabama on Bobby Bowden Field at Doak Campbell Stadium just a few short days ago. And now, what happens for the Seminoles in the recruiting department? Michael, we've discussed this over the offseason, kind of hoping it into existence, saying if Florida State was to beat Alabama, that would be the statement win that sets them on a different trajectory. How are things sounding now that we're 72 hours plus from that result on Bobby Bowden Field?
It's a lot of smiles, and a lot of. I think at this point you've gotten over the shock and the stunning of what actually occurred. It wasn't a dream. It's like, hey, dream, and woke up. It was definitely reality. And even when the media were out there, we were waiting for recruits. It was kind of like, wow, this actually happened. And I call it a perfect storm of results for FSU. When you talk about, we talked about winning, but I don't think we talked about them controlling the game. To win, just control the game and just physicality wise. I mean, it checked off every box. I did a three things to watch. They nearly nailed everything. And I didn't think we'd get to the third one, which was what would be the impact if FSU actually beat Alabama. I didn't think we'd get to that, but we did, and then some. And the buzz has been absolutely incredible. For FSU recruiting. Tom, I have had like 8 recruits that didn't even visit this weekend that said, "Hey, that's a place I'm definitely going to check out." And my feelings of FSU are a lot different. So that's the stuff we've got, throughout the weekend. Much less the people that visited. It's been incredible, incredible amount of positive energy and positive strong buzz that I wasn't sure it was going to happen this week. I kind of told you when we talked that Miami was, it felt like more realistic that was the one, but they got it done. And man, like I said, perfect storm of results.
Well, and there's one player I want to ask you about, but feel free to add other names to this.
Okay.
Florida State defensively was physical as hell. They were nasty. They were mean. They were right up at the edge of the line of legal, which I'm sure Mickey Andrews was smiling about too. Not just young recruits, but somebody like an old timer who really preached toughness, like Mickey Andrews. Linebackers, Michael, they looked fantastic in this game. Blake Nicholson looks like a completely different human being, let alone different football player.
Yeah.
DQ Forkpa was on campus. I know you wrote a story about DQ Forkpa on warchant.com. Just let me know what you think about that recruitment and how that performance by Florida State might have helped the Seminoles' chances for DQ.
Yeah, there was a lot of smiles from DQ when he came out. When we greeted him, you could tell he really felt like this is the linebacker system that I can see myself in, and I'm very comfortable with. And I said that was one of many ones where the product had to match what the excitement was of the plan of how they're going to utilize him for the future if they were fortunate enough to get him. And man, did they nail on it with the linebacker play. I think it was a forced fumble by one. Another one had a blitz and a sack. I think Thompson. So you saw a lot of different aspects of the way they utilize them. And he was naming like probably 2 or 3 or 4 linebackers that really just jumped out to him that he was following. So it nailed everything that I think we were looking for as far as just the impact that would have on the visit. And I think with DQ that was exactly what he was hoping to see. Now, do I feel like he thought they were going to win? I don't know. I think he felt like it was going to be a competitive game, but I think he was blown away by the product in that system of the way Tony White uses his linebackers, because it's not like any defense that I've seen. The FSU, the way the amount of blitzes, the amount of things that they can do impacting the game. It isn't just a guy that goes out there and tackles guys and covers guys out of the backfield. It impacts everything, and that's what DQ talked about a lot was the way the linebackers impact this defense. It's like you can't just pick 1 or 2 things that they do because they're so versatile of the way they want to utilize them. And I think it impacted him. I think it impacted even the guys who are committed, like Isaiah Williams. Those guys, I mean, they just saw the full. full thing was on effect, and I think it was a big move for FSU with DQ. And it's always been FSU Michigan, but I think FSU is the team that I hear just in my circles after the visit and people talking to people, whether in intel that are close to him. It really felt like FSU is controlling where things are right now as far as the team to watch. So I think they checked off everything I think he was looking for. Even though he downplayed like decision wise of when he's going to decide, you could tell, just in the body language, it was very impactful.
I think that's what most fans would ask now is what's next? Does an Alabama victory mean that flips and commitments are coming in season for Florida State? Like now? Is it something that this is just you bank this and maybe in October, November, as these kids' high school seasons end, they might make a flip? Like, how would you set up what the next couple of months might look like for that kind of activity where you're going to be seeing headlines of either flips or commitments or shutting down recruitments, those types of things?
I think there's time where you'll be breaking out the spatula. So I definitely think that's going to happen. Now I'm not saying that's imminent. I think the main thing too is like you have to look at this game where I think a lot of us were looking at this outside of the lens, which is like FSU playing Alabama. Man, that's going to be tough first game of the year. But I don't think a lot of people are looking like, hey, it's Alabama playing FSU, and I think that goes to what the newness was. And so this was a big surge as far as I think the biggest takeaway would be they really placed themselves really well with a lot of these recruitments of these guys being on campus that I feel like there's a different surge. I'll have a recruiting wrap coming up, and people can kind of sense what I'm talking about when that's released. That there's a lot of surge where maybe FSU is like third or fourth on the list, and they're probably tied or a clear leader. That's how much of an impact that I saw from the surge. So I think commitments will come. I don't think they're imminent, but I think they really position themselves very well for a lot of guys. I mean, I've never typed that many things where I've said where FSU is the favorite or the co-favorite or the clear leader as far as in a recruiting wrap. So I think it was massive. And as I told you, Tom, this was the game with it's going to stick for a while because whether ESPN wants to give them credit or not, as far as is it Bad Bam or is it actually FSU? Uh, the fact is, Alabama is Alabama. They've got one of the most loaded rosters in college football when you look across the board. Recruits knew that. Recruits know what that team's going to be. I think they're going to be better as the season goes on, but overall, I think recruits know that, and so you're talking about that. Then you have two games that are certainly winnable in coming up. You got at Virginia. Then it sets up what could be absolutely insane, recruiting weekend for FSU when they play Miami. And then, man, as Jesse Palmer likes to say, let's get weird. It will get weird if FSU beats Miami and they're 5-0 somehow going into that. Then you're talking about a surge it turns into a major surge to this could be a tidal wave of type of recruiting momentum for FSU. There's certainly going to be an upstick from this thing. I think there's definitely an upstick, but I think you have to also pump the brakes some because it's the first game of the year. We have to see how this team responds to winning, and we have to see if this team plays the same way depending on the opponent. Like I said, that Virginia game's coming up. I think it's on a Friday night or something like that. So you have situations we have to see how they respond. But overall, if you're looking to ace the first test, I mean they pass it with flying colors, and there's definitely some surge of momentum going on. But I look at it more like getting your position with a lot of these top recruits, like Kavion Bryant, who visited number one quarterback 2027. I think FSU certainly has the momentum there. I think FSU is probably the favorite there. And there's some Lawrence Britt's another one, 2027 wide receiver. I'll type more on some 2027 guys. I'll have a feature on of talking about. And then there's other guys like that like I said, they were probably there to see Alabama. Truth be told, they wanted to see Alabama, but they came away like, holy crap, this is a different FSU, and their opinions changed.
That's something I'm going to ask before we sign off here. But if you want to see those summaries that Michael's talking about on the premium recruiting board, very, very simple here. You can join warchant.com for $1 for your first week. That's awesome. It's the largest FSU fan community. This is a great week to do it because there's a ton of content that'll make you smile. As Michael said at the beginning, this will make you smile. The
Yeah.
team side of it, Florida State's victory on the field, the recruiting side of it, Florida State now completely erasing 2024's football season from the conversation when it comes to how they're promoting themselves with the 2026 class, the 2027 kids. You join for $1 and you're going to get a full year of access to The Athletic. That is an awesome deal. Come join us and head over to the Premium Recruiting Board for Michael Langston's coverage. Michael, coming up next month now, this is where the schedule goes from you better do something and acquire one of those upsets like we talked about before to now the schedule is a weapon. Because I would argue, I know what you're saying about consistency of product.
Yeah.
But even if you were to stumble and look flat against Virginia, those kids are booking that date for Miami and Florida State in Tallahassee. They're booking that. The only other major game that weekend is Texas and Florida. This is going to be one because Miami's got juice as well.
Right.
And that stadium, Michael, is also a weapon. That football-only facility that the kids were able to tour with hard hats, that place was coming apart at the seams for the BAMA game. Those students really led the charge on Saturday afternoon on Bobby Bowden Field. They're going to do that again for the Miami game. So this sets up brilliantly for Florida State the next month.
It does, and it reminds me of when they beat LSU the first time in New Orleans, where there was this is going to set them for the year because you'll have something no matter what happens the rest of the year that people will lean on to capitalize. They take it further. That's what I was referring to. But overall, yeah, it sets up a massive potential game with Miami, but it's setting where to show people I think a lot of people have this misconception that FSU's been bad for a while because of that one season. It almost felt like it was almost 2 or 3 years, but it was actually 1 year. And I think a lot of recruits knew that and said that. But like I said, I have a recruiting wrap coming up. There's probably 3 or 4 guys that I feel confident they're probably going to be in this class. A few from 2027, I think a couple from 2026. That people can kind of read between the lines, but there's some guys that I think that are going to be Seminoles that are already on that thing. And like I said, there's guys there you're going to see visiting that I haven't even really talked about that much. That in the coming weeks when they play Miami, certainly later in the season they play Virginia Tech and they host these games, you're going to see a lot of recruits that will really surprise you. That hey, they're visiting FSU now, so there's a definite big shift as far as the way FSU's viewed. And this was a massive start. I look at it's a first big step, and then certainly you have the Miami game could really take you to a point where now you see a possibility that not only is this team going to have a good year, they're probably going to go deep and be a really threat for the ACC championship, and certainly I think whoever wins that game, FSU Miami, I think it's going to be hard to not see them in the playoffs.
That's the whole deal where now also, if you're part of the money equation beyond the rev share, that was a good weekend for the Battle's End, everybody.
Yeah.
And
oh, yeah.
It could get real good for the Battle's End if Florida State does the job next month against Miami. We're going to document that the whole way, how the Noles do this weekend against East Texas A&M, an opportunity for more younger players to play. I got to imagine we'll talk about this in another video, Michael.
Yeah.
But the rotation of the defensive players had to help too. That's good. Access to the playing field is a good sign for young kids. We'll talk about that next time as we break down more rewards that Florida State is reaping from the Alabama victory. And then we might be getting with you again on Warchant TV soon to announce with a spatula maybe some good news.
Yeah.
So subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free. Hit the like button underneath the video before you leave and check out more of our content at warchant.com and Warchant TV. Michael, thanks for your time. As always, good sir.
Anytime.